Africa is among the continents with abundant natural resources. Despite being blessed with vast reserves of oil, minerals, and fertile land, Africa finds itself shackled by the chains of corruption, hindering development and leaving its people to suffer in the shadows of corrupt leaders. These are the top 10 most corrupt countries in Africa. Number 10. Eritrea. Corruption Perception Index, 22. Corruption in Eritrea is considered a deeply serious and growing problem. The level of corruption used to be considerably lower in Eritrea than in many other African countries. However, corruption is said to have been growing steadily worse ever since 1998, not long after the end of its decades-long war of independence. Number 9. Burundi. Corruption Perception Index, 21. Corruption in Burundi is systemic. Despite the establishment of anti-corruption agencies, Burundi is facing a deepening corruption crisis that threatens to jeopardize development and economic growth bolstered by the state and driven by foreign investment. Number 8. Chad. Corruption Perception Index, 20. Corruption in the public services of Chad is characterized by nepotism and bribery. Bribery is common in public services due to the low salaries of civil servants. Public works conducted by the government have been criticized by international organizations for lacking transparency and involving high levels of corruption. Number 7. Comoros. Corruption Perception Index, 20. Corruption in the Comoros follows the familiar patterns of state-based corruption. Mainly government officials abusing their political powers for private gain in the country of Comoros. Number 6. Democratic Republic of Congo. Corruption Perception Index, 20. Corruption in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which used to be an institutionalized part of the state, has been relatively lowered in recent years. However, it continues to exceed corruption in comparison to most states. This is clear from high poverty rates in the country despite the abundancy of natural resources. Number 5. Sudan. Corruption Perception Index, 19. Corruption in Sudan is substantial, as it is considered one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Sectors where foreign investments are concentrated, such as construction and transportation, are recognized as being very prone to corruption. Corruption exists in every sector of the economy and at every level of the Sudanese government. Number 4. Libya. Corruption Perception Index, 18. Libya has been struggling with corruption even in the post-Gaddafi Libyan society. Libya has a rapid ongoing surge in corruption, looting, and organized crime perpetrated by Libya's current rulers, which threatens the survival of the country's essential institutions, including the nation's vital oil sector. Number 3. Equatorial Guinea. Corruption Perception Index, 17. Political corruption in Equatorial Guinea is high by world standards and considered among the worst of any country on earth. It has been described as an almost perfect kleptocracy, in which the scale of systemic corruption and the ruler's indifference towards the people's welfare place it at the bottom of every major governance indicator or ranking. Number 2. South Sudan. Corruption Perception Index, 13. Corruption in South Sudan is among the worst in the world. The nation's elites have developed a kleptocratic system that controls every part of the South Sudanese economy. This system has taken shape quickly in a relatively short period, South Sudan having won self-rule in 2005 while remaining part of Sudan, and having been accorded full sovereignty in 2011. The nation has lacked proper regulations to combat fraud and malfeasance among senior government officials. Number 1. Somalia. Corruption Perception Index, 11. Corruption in Somalia pertains to purported levels of corruption within Somalia's public and private sectors. Somalia has struggled to re-establish a functioning state since the collapse of an authoritarian regime in 1991. By 2016, it had established 5 federal member states, though these semi-autonomous regions are often at odds with the central government. The government's territorial control is also contested by a separatist government in Somaliland and by the Shabaab, an Islamist militant group. That was our list for top 10 most corrupt countries in Africa. If you found this video informative, like, share, subscribe and hit the notification button.